Game 5 led the Nets with 32 points and 11 rebounds. Game 7 will be Saturday in Brooklyn, and don't worry, we got more due on that one. Shannon, what is the biggest reason the Bucks won?
Well, the big two for the Milwaukee Bucks showed up and they showed out, Skip. Chris Middleton was sensational. Giannis was great also. Skip, when I look at Chris Middleton, 38, 10, and 5 with 5 steals. Played the first two games, Skip. That was the reason why they lost. I mean, that's why they were blown out. That's not the reason they lost. But you can't shoot 6 of 23. You can't shoot as bad as he was shooting and expect to hold suit, especially when Kyrie was there and James Harden wasn't. But if you look since Game 2, Game 3 and beyond, Chris Middleton has been sensational. He's played very, very well. Skip, Giannis, 11 of 15 in the lane. Only took 5 shots outside of the paint with no threes. 13 shot at the rim. 8 fouls drawn. That's the way they need to play. Skip, I'm watching the game last night. They are so frustrating. Skip, Giannis comes down. He lays the ball up twice, and then his next possession, he shoots an 18-footer. Holiday can get at the rim at will. He's shooting step back, off-balance threes. I'm like, why are y'all doing this? Do you understand? Brooklyn has no rim protection. They have no one that can stop you from getting to where you want to be, and you're bailing them out. You're keeping them in this game. I just kept waiting for the game to be over at half, Skip, because they could get to the rim at will. But for some reason, they want to show, well, you know, this is what we did in the regular season. This is who we are. But when you have a situation, you're so much longer and taller, you're more athletic than the team that you're playing against. Take advantage of that. Get to the rim. Skip, Holiday, he was just driving me nuts last night, Skip. I'm watching him handle the ball. And in 2 possessions, Skip, he laid it up with his left hand off the glass. And in the next possession, he'll come back and shoot a step-back 3. Skip, he's 1 for 10, and he keeps shooting like he's Steph or Dame. I'm like, Holiday, just go to the basket. You got Joe Harris on you, or you got James Harden on you, who has a bum leg, and he's doing everything he possibly can, Skip, not to do anything sudden. You notice he's not going to the paint. James is just shooting threes because he don't want to do anything that would aggravate or irritate that hamstring. But I thought they also did a better job of trying not to let KD play one-on-one. But they still, I believe, let him play one-on-one more than they should have. But I thought, Skip, the 48 total minutes that he played in the previous game, Skip, and he played, the first 20 minutes of this game before he got a break. It seems like he didn't have the legs because he went from shooting, let me make sure I get this right, Skip. He went from shooting, 17, 18 free throws to only shooting 2. So that tells me he didn't have the legs that he had the previous day. So now you can somewhat neutralize it because we're talking about like Kevin Durant played bad. He was still 50% and had 32-11, Skip. That just goes to show you the level of greatness that he is. But I thought the Bucks, big two, Middleton and Giannis, they got help from Holiday. When your big three scores 89 of your 104 points, Skip, you're doing pretty good.
Okay, I'm assuming you're finished, which means it's my turn because I have a whole lot to say about what I unfortunately had to watch last night. Let's start with the fact that, as you say, thanks to Holiday, it was no holiday last night for my Nets. But the point was, he did go 1 of 10 from 3 last night. And the point was, your team that won you 3 cases of dew went 7 of 33 from 3 last night. That's 21%. They left the door wide open for the Nets to do what the Nets keep doing to them, which is to come back and snatch another one on the road.
Correct.
So what happened with 8:41 left in the basketball game last night in Milwaukee? Joe Harris, who's been in the worst slump of his career shooting threes, a guy who has won the three-point shootout on All-Star Weekend, the guy who led the league in three-point percentage shooting this year. Joe Harris finally made his first 3 of the night. He wound up 1 of 4, but he finally made one. If we could see this. Joe Harris, it went in, and he runs back up the court yelling, "I can do this, I got this," like out of his mind, like he lost his mind. And suddenly, if we could see, here's the shot, and then could we see what then ensued at the other end? Joe Harris went completely over the edge, and here comes your man, Chris Middleton, down Here we are. And he says, I'm going to block his three-point shot, and he just grabbed his arm as he went up to shoot it. It was a horrendous foul, and Steve Nash thought about challenging it, and Joe Harris ran over and said, no, I got him. And what did Chris Middleton do, as he is wont to do on nights at home? He went and made all 3 free throws. And what did your Fear the Deers do from that point forward? They went ballistic on the Nets. They went on a 14-0 run off that sequence we just saw. And Kevin Durant took 1 3 in that sequence and missed it. And he finally stopped the bleeding with one last dunk. And that was the only 2 points he scored over the last 8:41 of this basketball game that was begging to be won. And by the way, I forgot to throw in the fact that that 3 cut it to 5. So at 8:41 left, it was a 5-point game, and Shannon Sharp had given me 5.5 points. So with 8:41 left, I actually led the basketball game. I was a half point ahead, and then that happened.
Skip, it's funny that you say that, because that's what I was thinking at the exact same thing at the exact same time. I'm like, damn, I'm a half a point behind now.
You're a half a point behind. So to your point, Kevin Durant hit the wall. He finally just ran out of gas. He obviously played a full 48 2 nights ago, and he was playing extremely high minutes up to the 8:41 mark last night, and he just hit the physical wall. He lost his legs. He just ran out of gas. And for those who don't follow these kinds of second-level stats, I checked on it this morning because my eye test told me I have never, ever seen Kevin Durant handle the basketball more than he did last night. Obviously, coming off his career-best game, he finally decided, I think I have to do this all by myself. Would you believe the ball was in his hands last night 45% of the night? Remember, Luka led the NBA this year in usage rate at 43%. So Kevin had by far the highest usage rate of any playoff game he's ever played, because Shannon, as we always talk about, he's the most efficient scorer ever.
Correct.
He doesn't need to take many shots. He'll catch and shoot a lot of shots. He'll get them. He doesn't have to dribble. But last night, he had to turn into James Harden because there was no James Harden to be found. What I was dumbstruck over, I was thunderstruck over, I was gobsmacked about was the reason I made that bet with you about last night and Game 7 was because I thought that James Harden, coming off playing 46 minutes on that balky hamstring, would be 50% quicker last night. He went the other way. He was more statuesque last night. He was more of a cardboard cutout last night than he was 2 nights before. I could not believe it. He became a supreme liability on offense as their playmaker and creator, and obviously on defense, where he just tries to hide in the middle of the lane. He did have 4 steals because he's a genius with the basketball, but it has to be right before him where he can get his hand on the basketball. Otherwise, he is protect the hamstring. And Shannon, I got to tell you, he was such a liability on offense that I believe there's only one coach who would have kept him in the game, and that is Steve Nash, who obviously played at a high level, back-to-back 2-time MVP, and he was just doing it for the psyche of the team, just for the spirit of the team. Let's just keep him out there in presence only. I couldn't believe how little James Harden was able to do last night. And would you believe he had the ball in his hands 18%? That's by far the lowest he's ever had. He's led the league in usage rate twice in the 40s, but that's the lowest he's had since his days as the 6th man of the Oklahoma City Thunder back with Kevin and Russ back in their OKC days. So the point is, Kevin had the ball 45% in his hands. James had the ball 18% in his hands because he didn't want the ball in his hands. He could not create. He could not beat anybody off the dribble. He threatened nobody. And the irony was he did make 3 3-point shots. And Shannon, if you watch them closely, it's like he had to heave them. It's like he was shot putting them. He was throwing them because apparently he doesn't even trust his hamstring to push off and shoot
Right.
a set shot, you know, a feet on the floor set
Right.
shot,
Right.
step back three. Well, how did that happen? Where he